Hi, everyone. Okay, let's get started. We're about to start our third lecture, which corresponds with chapter 3 in your textbook. We're going to be talking about media as a tool and some cyborgs. More on that in a second. Oops, there goes the cuckoo clock. Oops. Um, okay, before we get into the tool part of our show here, I want to first introduce you to a law. Very very formal. It's not like laws in well, I guess it is kind of like laws in physics. It's like serious business. It's more than a theory, it's a law. And this law basically says that technology builds on itself. So think about how, like, okay, we have computers, and those computers are going to help us make more technology, like better computers. So it's like we get more and more sophisticated, not just at like a linear rate, but at an exponential rate. It's like we take like two jumps because we've got the technology we made yesterday to help us make better technology today. Again, exponential, think about like when you've had math classes and you have like an exponent, right? And that actually makes it so it's not like there's like when you multiply something with like the exponent multiple or okay, if you square something, it multiplies something by itself, like it's like double dose. Okay, you can tell, not a math professor, but the idea is that the returns on our technology accelerates. It doesn't go at a consistent rate. It's actually our technological development is getting faster and faster and faster. Okay. Um, the other thing that is relevant to this is that not only is technology developing at a faster rate, and it's kind of got like, woo, it's getting like, you know, we take leaps and bounds, but also the way that we adopt technology is also not linear. It doesn't just go in this straight line. It actually has like this curve, specifically like an S curve to it. So I know it's not like a really good S, but you see this like yellow line in the middle, like that's the S curve, right? Because what happens is like, okay, let's say a new piece of technology comes out, like, oh, the new iPhone, well, okay, forget it, because not an iPhone. Okay, let's just say like a new video game console came out, right? And it's like totally like it's like really virtual reality. It's like total cutting edge sort of like technology. In fact, it's so cutting edge, you don't even know what I'm talking about. That's why. So, there's going to be like a small part of the population that oh, I forgot to set my timer. There's going to be a small part of the population that the innovators that gets on that at the beginning. You all have friends like that. Like you don't even know where they get the money from, but they have to be the first people to have everything. But then, what over time you see like there's this gradual uptick. And then like at some point, like it seems like everybody's getting this thing, right? Until you reach this point of saturation where it just plateaus because it's like, oh, now it's not even a new thing. It's like everybody has an Xbox, everybody has an iPhone, everybody has whatever it is. So it's kind of got this S curve. Again, not like a real S, but whatever. But here's the thing. With this S curve and the fact that we've got this law of accelerating returns where technology is kind of building on itself, consumption's actually getting faster. Like we're taking in the technology more and more. So you can see, again, the S curve doesn't always look pretty. But the adoption of all of these technologies, and we're not just talking about like media technologies, we're talking about like electricity, stoves, radios, but it all kind of starts like that. You see like a small little increase, and then it's like, bam, everybody's getting into this shit. Sorry, stuff. And then it like they all at the end, like eventually almost everybody had a color TV. Like, like there's not many more people that can get the color TV. But here's what I want you to see too, like look at how more condensed this is kind of getting, right? Because it's like our technology is getting more and more sophisticated because it's building on itself. And at the same time, people are getting on that S curve and like signing up for it at the same time. And then we're just getting more and more. And look at the internet here. It just goes whoop, whoop, right? So that was a while ago, but it is a really good chart. And okay, so that's why we're gonna eventually be killed by robots soon. I kid, or do I? I mean, actually, real talk. I mean, this is sort of the fears, right? Because it's like once we develop a tech, like it makes a good movie, whether you believe it or not. Like it's the law of accelerating returns is sort of the problem here. Because if we create technology that's so good that it can actually sort of replicate itself, right? Then that's a lot for us. So if you don't know what this is, by the way, these are scenes from the movie Terminator, which I know is kind of old. Arnold Schwarzenegger, this may be a question on your quiz. Arnold Schwarzenegger is who played the Terminator. The reason that's relevant to our content is because we're going to be talking about cyborgs soon. So just whatever. But one more lesson before we get there. There are various theories about what if the technology that we develop is good for us, and how in control we are of that technology to begin with. So if I had to anecdotally say which of these three perspectives I have right here I hear most frequently in my own classroom, and even sometimes the news media will call to interview me for like a story because, like, I don't know, Pokemon Go came out or something, and they want like sometimes they'll ask me, they'll be like, what should we be scared of? They have hard-hitting questions like that. People tend to take a technological deterministic perspective. It means that, like, we are determined our technology. So anytime you hear somebody say Google is making you stupid, do you ever have a teacher that says like she doesn't want you to use, or he a calculator? So I'm sorry about that. That was so sexist. I was thinking about my own teacher though, because this is something we've heard for years. You know, if you use calculators, it's going to make you dumb. Like, you're not going to be able to do math. If you Google everything, you're not going to learn how to do things on your own. Things are making you stupid. Video games are making you violent. Like, all of those are technological determinism. It's the message that technology is somehow going to change us. And normally it's not positive. Although I can't think of good examples right now, but there are examples of positive spin on how technology is making us better or whatever. But again, normally not, because people have this moral panic whenever there's a new technology. There's also, this social construction of technology, which is a perspective that, like, yeah, no, but it's easy to say that we are going to be affected by technology, but who's making the technology? We are making technology. We make technology and then we manipulate it to suit our needs. The internet's actually a fun example of this, because the internet was not created for how we use it today. The internet was created, I think, to share files, in different military units or whatever. And then we're like, hey, oh, we could play games on this thing. The point is like, even when there's a technology there, what humans tend to do is find a purpose for it that suits their needs. So it's kind of like, no, humans are really running the show here, not the technology. And then there's always, if you look at this as like the three bears, there's like a middle of the road perspective, which is kind of like, well, it's a little bit of both. We evolve with our technology. Our technology shapes us, and then that affects what we do with technology that comes after it. And there's sort of this give and take relationship that we have with these tools. So the rest of this, so now back to the Terminators. But there's one really interesting argument that the authors of your textbook thought it was interesting enough to really do it like a whole chapter about. This guy Clark wrote a book, I think it was in 2005, called Natural Born Cyborgs. And you can look at these perspectives as like, oh, what's our relationship with technology? And Clark says in Natural Born Cyborgs that, like, technology is just a part of us. Like, it's an extension of us. It's not like, how do we relate to technology? It's more of like, how do we integrate with technology? And he called his book Natural Born Cyborgs because his argument is essentially, we use our technology in the same way that we use, like, our fingers, or other, like, parts of ourselves that helps us, like our body. Sorry, I'm getting like weird about this. I really should have like scripted this. The point is we use our tools and as an extension of our body. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And so this gets to why he calls it natural born cyborgs. Technically, what a cyborg is something that has both artificial and natural components, right? So it could be Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he had like human skin and stuff that he could, but he had like a skeleton made out of, I don't know, steel. I don't know. Titanium. Yeah, it's probably titanium. So he had like artificial and natural components. Cylons, Cybermen, choose like any sort of like science fiction example that you want, about like the typical cyborg. It's something that's like both biological but not biological. But a cyborg could also be somebody with a prosthetic. So somebody who has an artificial leg would be technically a cyborg, right? Because it's like, yeah, they've got all these natural parts, but oh, by the way, like they were also, fitted with an artificial limb or something like that, right? That also counts as a cyborg. The things that aren't cyborgs are just flat out robots. If robots don't have any like, I guess organic material associated with them, that would not be a cyborg. But what Clark is arguing in his book is like, even if you don't have like literally a piece of technology attached to you, like even if you don't have a prosthetic limb, if you have this phone, if you have, and you carry it around with you and you use it, you are a cyborg, because even though it's not technically a part of you, it's a part of you, right? like the way that you use this phone, the way that I use this phone, I use it as if it is a part of me. Like that's how we're wired to do it. So that's the natural born cyborg thing. Yeah, so this is just me saying it again. Oh, and I was wrong. 2003, not 2005. Sorry, you don't have to know that. That's just annoying that I didn't. Yeah, so he argues that technology, we use these tools, right? And we use the internet, we use Google. Like when we don't know something, right? We don't try to think it out in our brain. We're just like, I will go Google that, right? That is because we sort of understand, like our mind understands that these sort of tools are available for us and we can use them, as if it was like actually just something that, like in the same way that here's one way of thinking about it, in the same way that our brain sends signals for us to move like parts of our body in order to like engage in different activities, it's like our brain sends signals to use our technologies in the same way. And he has, I mean, the book actually has a lot of different arguments, but I think the ones that are most compelling have to do with sort of how we are hardwired for this to happen. We know, for instance, that brains have a degree of plasticity. For those of you who might be interested in studying things like counseling, social work, psychology, like the idea that our brains are changeable and that like we can, for instance, get over addiction or develop addiction just by sort of rewiring our brains and having our neurons mold to whatever the context is. That's called like brain plasticity. But it doesn't just affect things like addiction. It also can affect like how we use technology. So after we've been, I mean, here's a weird example, but like, do you remember like when you first used, like you played a video game like Wii or something like that, and like you first start using like Wii bowling, where you hold the little, I don't know what you call it. This is nail polish remover. It's not the same, but you hold the thing and like you're supposed to be like a bowling ball and you don't like really know, but like over time, it's like your brain finally gets it. It like maps on, and all of a sudden it sort of understands that like this is how you're supposed to use this controller to throw a bowling ball, even though it's like nothing like holding like a bowling ball, right? That can happen. Your brain can sort of rebuild its structure to adapt to whatever technology you're using. Likewise, we use technology to scaffold, think about scaffolding around a building, like when it's trying to prop somebody up to like, I don't know, wash the windows or whatever scaffolding's for. Uh, I guess it's not necessarily to just prop humans up, but maybe prop the building up. I don't know. Engineers in the audience, do not know, but I get this. Scaffolding for the brain is like supporting existing structures in there. So our brain, one of the things it's already good at is remembering things, right? We have a whole system to remember stuff, but we can't remember everything. And honestly, even if we can remember things, isn't there some things you'd rather be doing besides trying to remember things? So think about how we use our contacts list to memorize phone numbers. I mean, how many phone numbers of people in your life do you actually know? You don't have to really remember phone numbers anymore because you have, again, some sort of device that can remember them for you. You don't even have to dial them, right? You can just like hit their face and all of a sudden, they're being called. But the ways that our technology does things that our brain does, right, is sort of an evidence that the way that we're using our technology is to prop up our brain. It's just a little extension or a big extension. And the other piece of evidence he kind of gives for this is think about how when you're learning, kind of like that Wii example I just gave you, but think about like how when you're learning to use a new technology, for those of you who have learned how to drive, remember how like when you first got in the car, it felt like, oh my gosh, there's so much to remember. Like, keep your foot on the brake. Yeah, like put it into like drive. Oh, wait, gotta take off the parking brake. Like it just felt like, oh, turn the key. Like everything you did while you were in the car felt like, oh gosh, like check, 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 But then like once you got used to driving, you don't even think about it anymore. You don't think about like putting it into reverse or whatever, or having to like keep your foot on the brake while you do it or whatever. It just kind of becomes natural. So, Clark talks about how technologies that start off opaque, they require a lot of attention. Like you see them, like you're very aware. Riding a bike, same thing, right? It's like when you first learn to ride a bike, it's like, whoa, there's so much balance. I have to like really work, but it's like riding a bike. Like once you get it though, it's like it becomes transparent. You don't even see it anymore. Think about writing. Like the first time I mean, and this is, I should have brought this up before. I promised I would, and I'm such a liar. Because tools, I mean, or technology really is another word for tools. And it doesn't have to be digital. Like a bicycle is technology. It is, you've heard a lot about these cavemen and their wheels. Imagine if they could have seen the bicycle. I mean, it's like high tech. But like it doesn't, like the same way that we use a pencil, I think Clark would argue, is the exact same way that we use digital technologies and cell phones and video games and things like that, calculators, like whatever it is. So all of these things that you can think about in your life as you having to sort of like learn the ropes with is equivalent to how our brain has adapted to learning the ropes with new media and technology, and will continue to be so. So um, I'm not going to watch this. You again, if we were in class, I'd show you all these like movies or whatever. This is kind of like if you want to, you can go and watch it. It's like little movie clips from it's kind of like a gross movie. It wasn't that gross. It was like picture a video game that is like made out of like actual like uteruses or something. I can't remember now, but it like hooks into you like you have like a port installed to you, and like you put this sort of like living video game console inside of you so that your body kind of merges and you become one with the game, so you're inside of the game and whatever. It was just a visceral way of like illustrating the natural born cyborg thing, but you don't have to watch it, only if you think that kind of thing is fun. Other than that, though, we are done. So thank you very much, and I will see you in a few minutes when I do the next lecture. Bye. Oh, but look, it just, do you recognize this? Shoot, every time I turn up the volume's never up. Okay, bye. I'm done. Promise. Bye.